Welcome back to the For Liberty and Justice podcast. We have an insane episode for you today. My name is Nate Schatzline.
And I'm Eric Richardson, and we have an awesome podcast for you today. We're going to be talking about the results of the Tarrant County elections.
Woo!
We got somebody in the house that is representing that with the win. And so we're also going to be talking about a tolerant leftist teacher who has shown her true colors.
Showed them true colors.
For sure.
And later on, we'll be talking about how our law enforcement is under attack in the state of Texas. And there's a new policy that could label transgender procedures for minors as child abuse. So buckle up, Patriots. Let's get this show on the road. You're watching the For Liberty and Justice podcast. Check this out. We got the update for the primary. It's your boy. And I am so excited to announce I'm in a runoff. We are doing this. District 93, we in the house. I can't believe it. We won the percentage vote, 44%. 44%. Laura Hill got 36%. And Carrie Moon got 20%. And man, I just want to give a shout out to Carrie for running an incredible campaign. Thank you for doing it so honorably, sir. Let's go take it to Laura and win.
Let's go take it to Laura. I feel like it should be over.
Yeah,
like it should be, because you did win, but because that's the way politics go.
50% plus one. That's what we got to have.
I know, but I feel like it should be over. But
I agree. Lord knows my family wishes it was over. I literally went to bed the night of because we didn't get early voting results in because Tarrant County elections.
Yeah,
man, what was that? It just froze. Yeah. I was so glad that I didn't wake up and all of a sudden all my votes were gone. I halfway expected it.
I know. Hallelujah for that one.
So, but we woke up 43%. I was hoping to have the win, but it's okay. We technically did win. Now we got to go do it again. We've done it once before. Let's go win a second time.
Let's go.
It's going to be great. So vote Nate Schatzline for Texas State Rep District 93. Shameless plug. We need you in the runoff. That's on May 24th. Also, big news, and this is probably the most exciting one for the Tarrant County elections, and that is we got the real victory in our new Republican nominee for Tarrant County judge.
Yes.
Hello, somebody.
Come on.
We got somebody coming in. He beat Betsy Price. We have Tim O'Hare. That just won outright.
Yeah.
Won outright.
Killed it. Congratulations to Tim O'Hare.
He's a
conservative, Christian, honorable man, family man.
Yeah.
We know you're going to do good things for him.
He's going to serve us so well, but he's a close friend of everyone here on the podcast. But biggest thing is, I think we just showed the establishment that we're not to be toyed with in Tarrant County. I think we just showed that, like, that's what happens when true conservatives run, is that, number one, I believe that if we're backing biblical principles, I believe the Holy Spirit gets behind us.
Yeah.
And number two, I believe that when you have the right message, you can beat anybody.
Yes.
It doesn't matter how established of a politician they are.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like, we cannot make excuses. You know, one of the things that people ask us all the time, like, you ran for office and you're going to run again. Eric, come on, somebody, school board. He hasn't committed, but I'm going to tell you right now, this man is about to change our school board. It's going to be amazing. But when you ran, like, how much fear hit you the moment you started running? Like, the attack of the enemy is real.
It's definitely real, 100%. You know, you talked about the establishment. You know, the when you see evil prevailing, there's gonna be a couple of things that are going on there. You have men that are actually partaking in some of the corruption that's happening.
Yeah.
Or just righteous men and women just refuse to stand up and fight for what's right. And I think that with Nate's win and going into the runoff, and with Tim O'Hare winning against Betsy Price, you know, it shows that even the establishment, those that are saying they're conservative but yet are wavering on biblical worldview values, it shows that people are tired of that.
Yeah.
And they want true conservative and people that are going to stand for biblical worldview and values in our our country.
You're totally right. You know, one of the things that baffled me is on the night of our victory, I'm going to keep saying victory even though it wasn't 50+1, but on the night of our first victory, coming up on our second, the Star Telegram, come on, friends of the Star Telegram, they called, or I actually called them. I
the
got
fake
their number
news.
sent, and well, this one was good. I think they're hiring some good people.
Okay.
Time will tell.
Sorry, Star Telegram.
No apology needed. It's merited. But at the end of the day, like I'm talking to this reporter, and as I'm giving him all of my stuff of, hey, this is what we plan on doing. Well, all of a sudden, we go and I look at the article, and it shows that my opponent, Laura Hill, has now put out there, and I kid you not, it says, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's not. This race is not about conservatism; it's about experience.
Wow.
And I thought, nail in the coffin. I thought, that's ridiculous. Not about conservatism.
Yeah.
That's all this race is about.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with career politicians.
Yeah.
Is they think that their experience, even if it's bad experience, trumps people that have the right idea and have the right mission and the right heart. And that's exactly why we're going to win. And it's time to put those types of politicians out of office.
Man, I am so excited. Nate, I'm so excited that true patriots are rising up to the table.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see conservatives, churches, people that have been on the sidelines, people that have been sitting on the couch saying, man, where are these policies coming from?
Yeah.
Why is this an attack on our children? And guess what? People are waking up. And it's going to be an awesome next year. Here in Tarrant County, I believe we're going to be a beacon of light.
Yeah, we are.
For the world to see and be an example for other cities, other states to step up to the plate and do the same thing.
You're absolutely right. I think looking at it, I would love to encourage anybody watching and listening right now. If you're listening to this podcast and you saw, this is the thing that you think about, like, oh, I could never run for politics because I could never run for a position because. Go ahead and cancel it out and listen for the voice of God, because oftentimes we will talk ourselves out of what God's called us into. Mm-hmm. And here's what I would love to encourage you with. We started my campaign, and I believe you were the same way, with $0 in the bank account. Mm-hmm. $0 in the bank account. And yet, the moment we said yes, God's provision followed. Yeah. And I just want to encourage you that if God is behind it, the enemy can't stand against it. And at the end of the day, Eric finished his race and didn't come away with the W, but it was still a victory because you kicked the door open for true conservatives. You kicked the door open, inspired people like me to jump in. And now I'm a product of your obedience from God. I'm a product of Steve Panate's obedience from God. And so I just want to encourage you that, like, hear me on this. And this is, if you pull anything out of this segment right here, it is that obedience doesn't follow God's provision. God's provision follows your obedience. We have got to obey before God acts. And I believe that God is waiting for our obedience before he moves.
100%.
And sometimes we're waiting on God to move, and God's like, no. Matthew 6:11 says this: give us this day our daily bread. If you could remember any scripture, if you decide to jump into political office, I lived off of this scripture because God's not going to give me provision for tomorrow until we get there. There were often times we had to make decisions of, I don't know how we're going to do this, but I don't know how we're going to get to the general election, but God's provision follows on a daily basis. Yeah. And so if you are a Christian mom or dad out there, if you are a concerned citizen, do not wait for the perfect time. That perfect time isn't coming. The perfect time is waiting for you. Yeah. It's waiting for you to act.
And also, I want to encourage y'all watching as well that, this is not the time in America's history to, be, binge watching Netflix and sitting on the couch, playing video games. Obviously respect, honor your family time. And even if you don't run for office, you can come out and block walk.
Yeah.
What's your website?
NateForTexas.com.
NateForTexas.com. Go there, volunteer. I mean, just take a little bit of your time, even if it's 3 hours. Come out with the family, block walk, get involved. We are living in one of the most important moments in history, world history, and protecting the freedoms that we want to protect and see our children grow up in. And so I just encourage you, don't feel like, well, I got this job and I have, there's all this going on in my life. Trust me, you can make some time.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Is for far too long, conservatives have been focused on building wealth rather than building a nation. And we have to make sure that in the midst of building wealth for future generations, we're also educating future generations on what matters most. In fact, Tim O'Hare said it best when he was on on our show a few weeks ago, and he said this, and that's our new county judge. Come on, somebody. But he said this. He said, if conservatives and Christians would give 2 hours a week to something political, we would never lose another election again. And he's right. We've talked about
say
this.
that again, though.
Yeah.
Because that's like, y'all have to really understand that. Literally, we're not saying to give up your whole life.
Right.
It's how.
Yeah. If conservatives and Christians would give up 2 hours a week, 2 hours a week, like that's it, 120 minutes, then we would never lose another election again. This is so key, especially when we talk about the statistics we've said in past shows, which is 90 million voting age Christians live in U.S., and 40 million of them do not vote. It's insanity. Speaking of, what happens when we don't vote is we have teachers, woke leftist teachers, that rise up in our education system, and they begin to indoctrinate the next generation to take a knee, to bend a knee to the leftist agenda. There was a Colleyville middle school teacher. Colleyville is right down the road from us. It is a very affluent neighborhood in North Fort Worth area, in between Dallas and Fort Worth in the north. And I kid you not, I want you to watch this video very quickly of what this teacher said in the hallway. Now turn your volume up, and you're going to want to really pay attention. Listen to what she says right at the end, and then you see parents get really uncomfortable and stammer away. Listen to what this Colleyville middle school teacher in a conservative city had to say. These are the people that are shaping your child's mind. Check this out.
It goes in because we have a political system that will not allow us to happen. So we're vaccinating like the flu, which is, if flu vaccine if you want, but you don't tread on.
Yeah, I think we need to put it. I think it needs to be put in. That's very
It would have had to have been immediate. If we had done it immediately, it already be gone. That's what's frustrating. The rest of our life is impacted because of politics. Because of conservative behavior. I'm telling you, those conservative Christian people, they need to.
I'm going to see my boyfriend.
Isn't it wild that a teacher, a middle school teacher, someone that we are trusting where our children go, would have the audacity to say that conservative Christians need to get COVID and die?
Wow.
Well, she resigned.
Yeah.
She resigned. The moment that this video went viral, all of a sudden they pulled her in and they gave her an option, I'm sure, of, I'm speaking for them.
Your option is you're fired.
Your option is get out.
You're out.
Well, and it should be. At the end of the day, this should encourage us to do a couple of things. Number one, it should encourage us to talk to our kids. And it also should encourage us to encourage our students to record when something odd is happening.
Yes.
This is so
You know
beautiful.
what? Because our own politicians, man, are they're just soft. The ones that are saying we're conservative, we're going to stand. You're not standing for America. You're not standing for American values. I mean, kids all across our nation are standing up.
Yeah.
And they're saying, okay, if the grown adults are not going to do it, well, we're going to do it.
Yeah. I think out of fear of being canceled, we become irrelevant. Like I'll say it again, out of fear of being canceled, we have officially become irrelevant. Listen, your fear should not to be canceled. Your fear should be that the next generation isn't going to make it. Your fear should be the fact that if we do not check in on what's being said to our kids, then they literally can say whatever they want. And I am a strong advocate for teachers. I'm a strong advocate for public educators. Thank you for what you do. For every teacher that loves the kids that they teach, for every teacher that's pro-America, for every teacher that talks about constitutional values and teaches about how America is the most opportunistic country in the history of the world for all people. For every teacher that does that, thank you. But for every single teacher that is indoctrinating students to hate their country, to hate family values, to hate Christians, let me just tell you, you are being labeled as the tolerant left, but we are exposing you. We are exposing you for the indoctrinators that you are. We're coming and we are not relenting. We're going to flip those school board seats.
That's right. And this is not hate speech. They're going to try to spin that and say, well, it's hate speech and we're against, all different kind of things, but the reality is that we're not. We're actually for the freedoms and bringing people together and giving parents the ability to have the choice with their children.
Well, and that's just it, right? Because these people, these teachers that seek to hate Christianity, that what they're bought into is critical theory. They bought into critical theory, and what critical theory does is it critiques all of society through the lens of race. That's critical race theory. It critiques all of society in this critical sense, but it brings no real solutions. And so their idea is, let's tear down the system. Speaking of tearing down the system, law enforcement is under attack inside of the state of Texas right now. You know, I was talking with a law enforcement officer just a few minutes ago before I jumped in on this podcast, and he was expressing concern. And let me tell you something. We're going to go to Austin. And we're going to have a Back the Blue rally, because that's what we do here. We back our law enforcement because they do protect us. They do take a stand, and they risk their lives every day.
Yes, and it's not about black and white and Mexican. And man, these police forces have all those colors and races represented. This is not about an attack on anyone's specific race when it comes to policing and safety in our communities. What this is about is backing those that protect us and keep our kids safe. 800,000 kids come up missing every year. I know that's a whole nother story we could get into.
But wow. No, say it again. How many?
800,000.
That's in the U.S.? Wow. 800,000 children? Why do we not hear more about this? Why do we not have special task force dedicated to this? I'll tell you why. Because the leftist ideological preferences of leftists have come in and have begun to defund our police. This is a crime. This is a crime. And I'll tell you what it is. It's not an attempt at racial reconciliation. That's the lie that they tell. It's not.
The murder rates are up across our nation.
In the cities that have attempted to do this.
That have taken out the police. And then it's so ridiculous that when Antifa and BLM was burning down our cities, the organizations, literally they were letting them do this, and they were defunding the police. And some of those cities have literally said, we need to hire police back into our cities.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, that Joe Biden changed his tune. I don't know if you saw the latest news outlet that put out that Joe Biden is now saying we don't need to defund our police. We need to resource them. Do you want to know why? Because those stupid ideas didn't work. Because Chicago crime rates are only rising. Because Dallas crime rates are only rising. Because Austin is only becoming more like San Francisco. This is the crime. It's awful.
Boy, you know what? We pray that Joe Biden does well as he transitions into his life and into glory. But I feel sorry for Joe Biden.
What a political way of saying that.
I mean, Joe doesn't even know where he's at.
He's not. He doesn't. And it's sad, right? Even beyond like making fun of them, it's like that's the easiest target. In comedy they say don't take easy targets because it's cheap jokes. Joe Biden, it's now becoming a cheap joke. Because he's a senile, he's losing his mind. It's very sad. It's very sad. He's an elderly man that deserves compassion, but does not deserve the seat as the most powerful person in America.
No,
rather in the world, really, because now we see that we have no impact on the world. We have no influence when it comes to Russia, Ukraine. We don't have any power. They would have never done this under 45.
No.
And so we have to understand that it's time to rise up. More specifically, Austin Police Department right now, 19 Austin police officers are facing indictments linked to the May 2020 protests. Now, this is a big deal. We have to get loud. I mentioned a few minutes ago that we need to host a rally. I think that should be a For Liberty and Justice rally. So keep on the lookout for that for Back the Blue in Austin.
Who's the gentleman that is putting together these indictments?
Yeah, so
because we got to highlight that this gentleman is, in my opinion, just putting forth a ridiculous accusation.
It's insanity.
Against
and it's the
police.
DA. Do you understand how important district attorneys are? Like, this district attorney is now able to indict 19 police officers. And I'm going to get in for just a second. Before we even talk about the DA, we need to talk about what he's doing. So because a riot happened in 2020, which we know that was happening all over America, Texas was not immune to it, regardless of what some people will say. In the middle of Austin, there were riots going on, and these riots became incredibly violent. Now, I want to read the police chief's tell of how these riots were going before I explain what these incredible officers, incredible public servants are getting indicted for. And this is what the police chief
putting their life on the line
to protect us in the most chaotic season of American history in my lifetime. Here we are. It says, Chaikin explained, officers had to work under the most chaotic of circumstances during the protests and the size of the crowds. It was underestimated by management. Then he goes on to say this: there were hundreds of protesters. is what people said, but instead there were thousands of protesters. Imagine this, you're outnumbered by the thousands.
Yeah.
And it says at times, the chief said, the crowds were riotous and violent, with property destruction and looting present at the beginning of the protests. Chaikin said his officers faced rocks, frozen bottles of water, bottles containing bodily fluids, urine, commercial grade fireworks, and other objects being hurled at them. And what did they do? They took action like they are trained to do to protect our streets. You know what? If something is happening chaotic like this in the middle of my street, I hope to God that we have officers that are bold enough to take action and remove people and take people down that are causing this violence in the middle of our streets. And yet now they are facing indictments because the district attorney in Travis County is now looking at them and saying, oh, some people, they got hit in the face. They were throwing frozen water bottles.
Yep.
What else would you do? Well, I mean, we're putting these officers in a position where their life is at risk, and we're expecting them not to defend themselves.
Yeah.
This is insanity.
It is.
And this is what the leftist woke ideologies that are being taught to our kids are teaching people to believe, that somehow these officers are criminals, when in reality, they're keeping our streets safe. It's time to rise up, and it's time to speak up.
Yeah. Be a voice for these officers. Show up. Let the community know. Let this gentleman who's indicting them know that, you know what, we appreciate our police, actually. You know, here in Fort Worth, Nate and I have friends that are police officers. Literally, I've spent the past 3 years getting to know our police force because, you know, so many people come up and they do these indictments or they talk about, you know, how horrible the police department is. And my question to them is, especially here in Fort Worth, is, can you please explain to me how horrible they are?
Yeah.
Like, what is it that they're doing? You don't even know them. When is the last time you took the time to get to know them and realize that Fort Worth PD is one of the most diverse police departments in the country?
Without a doubt.
One of the best police departments, in my opinion, in the country. But with stuff like this going on, the police need to know that the community has their support.
Yes.
And also for other young, you know, men and women that want to join the police force to know that their community has their back.
And not only that, I think the key here is this. The narrative from the left has so poisoned the minds of the next generation to believe that police officers are against them, that oftentimes, if we're not careful, we will poison this next generation to a degree that they're already in the defense mode when approached by an officer. This is when things get dangerous. Imagine this. If an officer is worried for his life, and if a young man or woman is worried for their life, you've now created a volatile situation because there is no trust that's been built up front. We have got to, as conservatives, as Christians, as men and women of God, as people who care about our nation, as pro-America citizens, we have got to take a stand and start bridging the gap between law enforcement and the next generation.
Yeah. Let me say one thing with that too. If you were to go, number one, you have to stop watching the leftist media.
Yeah.
I mean, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, all these entities, they're pushing a narrative that they want you to see. But Nate, if you go into go into the black community, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, the heart of the black community. And if you were to ask them, do you want police in your neighborhood? You know what they're going to say?
Yes.
100%.
Of course.
Because if the police weren't here, it would not be safe. But see, the mainstream media is not going to tell you that. So I just wanted to say that real quick. Do not buy into everything that this mainstream leftist media is telling you. They are not for the people. They are 100% against the people.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. And then, it was Travis County District Attorney. I want to say him by name. It's Jose Garza. Jose Garza, this man that, in my opinion, should never have been elected as a district attorney, is now stepping in and saying that on Thursday, he said multiple indictments will be forthcoming in the days ahead for law enforcement officers suspected of criminal conduct during the May 2020 racial injustice
You know
protests.
what, Jose Garza, why don't you indict, the people that were burning down the city?
Yeah.
How about that?
Where are they? Where are
the
they?
people that were destroying businesses that have been in the community for 50 years.
Here's my question. Where was Jose when it was happening?
Yeah.
Was he out there on the street? Did he get bottles of urine thrown at him? Did he get frozen water bottles thrown at him?
Hey.
Of course he didn't, because he's sitting in his high tower waiting for the police to do the job and then later indicting them for doing the very job that kept him safe.
Do you think if Jose was under duress, Do you think that he's going to want some police to protect him?
I wonder what's going to happen when somebody tries to attack Jose on the street.
Yeah.
And I wonder if an officer's just going to go, I'm sorry, I've been indicted.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like, this is insane. And we hope the best for Jose. But at the same time, we also hope that he wakes up and recognizes that his life is sacred in the same way that these police officers' lives are sacred. That's what we have to get across here, is that we're not saying that one life is greater than the other. We're saying that all life is equally sacred.
Yeah, Jose, you know, I think I would imagine you probably lock your doors at night. You probably, you know, maybe even have a fence over in your backyard for your kids and stuff.
I would guarantee he has private security.
Private security for 100.
Hope he doesn't indict them. You know?
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane that we are even having this conversation. We have to take a stand. And I'm actually proud of our governor. I want to give a shout out to our governor right now, Governor Greg Abbott. You know, regardless of your opinions on how this primary went, I just want to say this. Our governor is making a bold stance right here, and I want to highlight it. It says that Texas Governor Greg Abbott's new policy is directing Texas Department of Family and Protective Services to investigate subjecting children to controversial transgender procedures such as cross-sex hormones and puberty blockers and relabeling it as child abuse. Thank God. Thank God. We've been fighting for this for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, this whole transgender movement is...
Stop it.
We have to stop.
Stop it.
It's insanity. And the reason that it's insanity is because it's not natural. It's not the way that God created us. It's not the way that we were created as a unit. And it's anti-science. That's what I'm trying to get across to everyone. Like, for so long, how long, we've said this so many times, but how long has the Christianity been kind of like, really analyzed and criticized because, you guys don't believe in science? No, we do believe in science because God created science.
Yep.
And now when we try to defend science, we're now told, no, you can be whatever you want. That's just not the case.
Let me tell you something. If you cannot give birth to a child and you cannot carry a child in your womb and give birth to that child, you are not a woman.
Yeah.
The reality is...
It's not controversial.
It's not controversial. I mean, the reality is, come on, that Greg Abbott is stepping up to the plate.
Finally,
and
stepping
pushing
up
these
in
things.
this area.
And you know what? Joe Biden has declared war on Texas.
I know. He's showing up.
He says, well, I don't agree with that.
I guess I'll be out there with Beto in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Joe Biden's coming to Fort Worth. And let me tell you something. There is no threats coming from us to Joe Biden. He can come here, but I promise you this. He's not going to get the support and the welcome that he thinks he's getting.
No, he's not.
Because we don't want his policies here. It really comes down to policy. We do not want a progressive agenda.
They're not your children.
No, and the same
They're
man
our children.
who's running for governor, Beto O'Rourke, who said we're going to take away your guns. Watch, right when he starts running for governor, he says, I'm not going to take away your guns.
No, I was just talking.
I was just playing around. What can you even say? Like, and yet it's on video, and yet
we're gonna run every video, Beto, that you did talking about you're gonna take everybody's guns.
Well, I was at an event with Governor Greg Abbott last night, and I heard that Governor Greg Abbott is going to be releasing some video.
A rap video?
No, not a rap video.
Okay,
that would be interesting. But no, he's going to be releasing a video where Beto just repeatedly is saying, "We're going to take away your guns," and I think that's great. You want to know why? Because I don't know if you remember this, Beto, but when you step into public office, you sign on to defending the Constitution. You've already committed to tear down the Constitution. So I'm going to let you know right now, Texas is not going to let you take away our guns.
Right.
You can come and try and take them. It's not going to be very helpful for you. But I'm going to tell you this right now: you can't run for office when you've already sworn to tear down the Second Amendment.
And this is the reality. You lied.
Yeah,
you lied. You can't say one thing and then just a year later say, "Oh, I didn't really mean that." Yes, you did.
Which is why our governor's stepping up, and this is what he said. He's ordering DFPS to investigate instances where Texas children have been subjected to a wide variety of elective procedures for gender transitioning, including reassignment surgeries. Can you believe that's happening in our schools? Without parental consent. Reassignment surgeries that can cause sterilization, mastectomies, removals of otherwise healthy body parts, and administration of puberty-blocking drugs or supraphysiological doses of testosterone or estrogen to transition children. Okay? So he's ordering an investigation. Thank God. And so we're going to be investigating. And get this. They ordered the cited legal opinion from Attorney General Ken Paxton. Love him or hate him. Let me just say what Ken Paxton shows. It determined that controversial transgender procedures constitute child abuse. The opinion cited numerous doctors and other medical sources claiming that, and this is so good, there is no evidence that long-term mental health outcomes are improved or that rates of suicide are reduced by hormonal or surgical intervention. I'm going to say it again. There is no evidence that long-term mental health outcomes are improved or that rates of suicide are reduced by hormonal or surgical intervention. So for all of those mental health experts out there that claim that when we are anti-transgender movement, we are anti-mental health, it is quite the opposite. It is quite the opposite. We are destroying the next generation. We are literally destroying the bodies of innocent children, and we are claiming that we're helping their mental health with no scientific proof or fact. Parents, it's time to stand up. Parents, it's time for us to rise up. It is time for us to run in these influential seats of government so that we can change the laws just the way our government is planning, our governor is planning on doing right now.
Don't be lullabied to sleep. What they are doing is criminal activity towards our children. And we are not going to sit on the sidelines and just watch it happen. Literally, like, it gets me so fired up. Like, I'm having a Braveheart moment.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
got to paint
man,
my face, baby.
I just wanted to, have my farm and build my land. But now you want to mutilate our children. And we're not going to let it happen, and I feel like
we have to take a stand.
I'm glad that I have brothers like Nate and my brother Steve Panate and our pastors, Pastor Landon and Heather Schott and Mercy Culture Church and others that are waking up and saying, you're not going to do that to our children.
Let me give you some action steps because we don't like to just give information. Like, we're not just, again, we're not a news source, we're a truth source, but we're not just a source of truth. We want to give action steps for you to follow the truth. And so here's what it is. We in the midst of, all this happening in government, I don't know if you've heard, but just this last week, we actually broke ground on the Justice Residences. Come on, the first 100-bed facility to restore women who have been victims of sex trafficking. Sheriff Wayburn, Sheriff of Tarrant County, came out and spoke for us. It was inspiring. It was incredible. And I'm going to tell you this right now, that if the church will rise up and stop waiting for the government to fix our problems, then there won't be the problems to fix by the government. The government is not the solution. And this is my action step for you. As a parent, it is time to get involved in the nonprofit sector. It is time to rise up. Don't just run for seats. Also be a part of the solution. When we're talking about, sex trafficking, we can't just wait for our border to be shut down. We have to start funding. We have to start helping. We have to start, helping the building process of projects like the Justice Residences. And we have got to take action. So our action step is this. This is your sign to get involved. This is your sign. We have children being transitioned inside of public schools without parental consent. We literally have teachers trying to indoctrinate our kids. We prove this to you on a weekly basis now. It is time to rise up. Get involved with forlibertyandjustice.us. That's our website, forlibertyandjustice.us. Sign up to get involved. We're going to be having rallies. We're going to be going down to Austin and backing the blue. It is going to be amazing. And tell them why they need to get involved.
It's time. It is really just time. You were born for such a time as this. If you're alive and well in this generation, God has chosen you to rise up. You have what it takes. You have the energy, you have the focus, you have the drive. You just got to make sure that you transition your focus to what Nate and I are talking about and really, really, really get involved. Don't wait and to have to pull your kids out of school because you're like, man, it's just going to get worse. And I know I'm going to have to pull my kid out of school. No, go get involved.
That's right.
Go down to the local school boards and let them know we know what you're doing and we don't agree with it. And we're going to vote you out of there. And a lot of you guys are going to run for some of those seats and positions. The school board is one of the most important seats right now in our country because they're just coming in and thinking that they own our children and indoctrinating our children with all this mess. So I just would say you're ready. It's important for you to get involved. Right now is the time. Don't wait. Please get involved.
All right. So last things, May 7th, that is our next school board elections here in Tarrant County. Wherever you are, vote. Do the research. We're going to be putting out a list for our school board elections. We're also going to be putting out a list for our primary, which is happening on May 24th. Our friends and family list that was so popular at the polls that literally, I attribute it to some of our success with some of our races.
100%.
We just talked about the district attorney in Travis County that is trying to defund the police and indict 19 officers. We have an opportunity to get in a good Christian, moral value man with a conservative record, and his name is Matt Krause. Matt Krause is running right now for district attorney in our district. If you haven't voted, on May 24th, you are going to have the opportunity to give him your vote. This is a man that has refused to back down from the woke leftist mob. This is a man that is never going to allow churches to be shut down again. This is a man that has taken a stance for our children inside the public schools. This is a man that we need to get into office because he is going to back our law enforcement in Tarrant County, because Tarrant County will never look like Travis County if we have anything to say about it.
That's right. So guys, get ready, saddle up again. It's not over. We got to push Nate across the finish line. We got to put Matt Krause across the finish line. And so get ready. We're going to have to get out there and vote again. Let your neighbors know. Let your friends know. Let everybody know Nate Schatzline for Texas and Matt Krause as well.
It's going to be fun. We have an exciting episode for you next week. But until then, share this episode. Let's get the word out. Let's wake up America. As always, at For Liberty and Justice, we have a pretty simple motto, and that is we are here to mobilize the church, wake up the city, and take a stand for liberty and for justice. We'll see you next time on the For Liberty and Justice podcast.